Immerse in the profound wisdom of the Shandilya Bhakti Sutras, ancient verses, revered as a pinnacle of devotion and spiritual awareness. Under the guidance of His Holiness Swami Jyotirmayananda, plunge into the infinite ocean of this revered scripture. Discover its hidden truths. Embrace its transformative power. Awaken to new realms of divine love and spiritual awareness. The depths are calling. The deeper you dive, the more treasures you'll discover. And now, Sri Swami Jyotirmayananda.
Om Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kansachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Om. Adorations to Lord Krishna, the preceptor of the universe, destroyer of the forces of darkness and bestower of immortality. Blessed self in all. Shandilya Bhakti Sutras, Sutra number 44. I'm reiterating it because of its importance. This sutra gives you different aspects of practice of devotion. Samman, Bahuman, Priti, Virah, Itar Vijikitsa, Mahima Khyati, Tadartha Pranasthan, Tadiyata, Sarvatad Bhav Apratikulyadin, Chasmarane Bhyo Bahulya. It means honor. Mind should develop a sense of respect and honor. God is honorable. Simple point. So whenever you relax, try to feel the divine presence. Invoke God and a sense of honor. And this is illustrated by Arjuna's relation with Krishna. No matter whatever situation Arjuna was, the moment he saw Krishna, he jumped up and welcomed Krishna. Another stage is great reverence, Bahuman. It's illustrated by a great king in ancient time called Ikshvaku. When Ikshvaku saw anything that would remind him of God, he would experience an immense thrill. For example, you are walking in a park and see a peacock spreading its feathers. The mind turns to God. What wondrous beauty is expressing through nature. There's a sense of feeling the divine presence in all things that give you a special effect on your mind, the effect in the form of beauty, sublimity. Every flower, in other words, is beckoning your mind to God. The sample you have in the Bible, behold the lilies of the field. How do they grow? They toil not, etc. And that Jesus became over-enthusiastic, underestimated Solomon. Solomon, with all his glory and power, was not arrayed like anyone of those. It's all figurative language, implying all human power based on ego is very little compared to how nature is operating before your eyes. A little seed, immediately you see the rootlets coming up. The roots go down, they seek out all vulnerable areas. And even a strong part of the earth, like layers, stony layers, even they break down by those tiny little rootlets. And they're persistent day and night. seeking out vulnerable points, getting into it, correct. Then out of it comes the truth. So you are seeing a whole drama of power of faith, of divine intelligence permeating all. Every cell within your body is operating by divine intelligence. In the midst of all this, human mind sinks in gloom. That needs to be corrected. That's what called devotion. Your mind begins to develop that mystical awareness. The awareness of God's presence is not based on normal nervous system. It's based upon something different. It's antarmukhi. Mind becomes pure. And it begins to reflect the immensity of God. That's the reality behind all. Next one, loving delight. The illustration was Vidura in Mahabharata, his saintly personality. Krishna was invited to Kauravas, the royal assembly of those people who were inimical, demonia. Krishna chose to go to Vidura, who had only a little ordinary type of house. And there he was offered ordinary things, spinach and things like arrows. All that is highly mystical way of saying that if you have developed divine feeling within your heart, love of God, then God is drawn to you. It's illustrated also by Krishna's story, how he went after butter. So much so he was a thief from the very childhood. The mental process is just like milk, all mixed up, polluted. You purify it and you churn it by devotional process, by japa, meditation. As you begin to churn it, divine feeling arises. Once feeling is there, God comes to your heart in a stealthy manner. Great things always happen in a stealthy manner. Day by day, you go to sleep. Prior to sleeping, your mind may have different ideas. I have only short time. I must go to sleep in 5 minutes. You start watching the clock. Am I sleeping? But when sleep comes, you don't know when did it come. Try it out, experiment. Comes as stealthily. In the same way, go on doing japa, go on living a life of spiritual sadhana day by day. And you are always expecting, hear from others their spiritual experience. Say to yourself, how is it? There's nothing happening to me. But unknown to you, you discover you have developed inner strength, things that would have upset you sometimes before. They don't upset you. You are holding a clarity of mind even when you have challenging situations. Though you are not seeing lights, not hearing music, nothing extraordinary is happening. Your mind also begins to recognize that real progress is a change in your personality. An inner enrichment begins to occur. So that's Your movement towards God is characterized by loving delight. Vira. Vira is mystic pangs of separation. Is dramatized by gopis who loved Krishna. And when, for some reason, Krishna kept himself aloof, they suffered from great pain, suffering without Krishna. That's the experience in the world. In all loving relations, there is a pangs of separation. But here it is symbolic when we say pangs of separation. Feeling spiritual unrest that is not in the plane of nervous system. So if you feel really morose and melancholy and say to yourself, I'm having the vira. I'm grieving for God. If you say there is no heart, it's good. But try to understand it is not the reality. Because if divine pain is felt, it is greater aspect of this is a tremendous thrill in your personality. I give a crude illustration. Suppose for some reason you have been paralyzed and therefore you don't feel anything. And now recovery has started. And suddenly you feel pain in your limbs, in your arms, in your legs. Pain is not enjoyable. And yet joy surges in your mind. You are not paralyzed. You try to understand that type of pain. Your heart begins to develop that type of pain. And a profound longing to open up, to blossom, to soak in the nectar of God's presence. And another aversion to all else. This world has nothing but all else. Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven. All else shall be added unto. Go after the ocean. All else are the waves. They will be added to it. That's a figurative way of saying you don't need anything else. God is perfection. All is implied in God. But since mind is not so advanced in the masses, so a temptation is given, all else. Everything that you want, you will get it through God. Even ice creams, laddus. But to come to a state as your buddhi, intellect becomes purer, clearer, Vivek Shakti develops, a special power of discernment. Your intellect begins to show what is substantial and what is just vain. And whatever is just artificial, illusory, the intellect doesn't like it. You have no taste. Aversion for all else. All that you want is love of God. Therefore, if God were to appear before you, ask anything you want. The devotee, ideal devotee says, "Oh Lord, you know best. Don't ask me to ask. If at all, give me ever increasing love for it." The scriptures dramatize the point that God asks you, ask a boon, and you leave it to Him, He becomes further pleased. He says, one step higher, ask something better. And he goes on in increasing his attitude that the devotee owes immensely. The devotee deserves to have his love more and more and more. In other words, he cannot repay the devotee. This strange language. In Hindu religion, it's easy to understand. Because God is not always viewed as an awesome personality, but God is the source of your love, your joy. And as if, therefore, God becomes indebted to it. As if. And the lake is clear. The sun becomes as if indebted to the lake, jumps into it. Glorification of God, that's one of the major aspects. Great personalities, they always glorified God wherever they went. We have the illustrations of Vyasa, Narada, Bhishma. Whenever any opportunity came to them, they were at their best when they started glorifying Krishna or God. Subtle point is that whenever in your life, whenever you have the opportunity to talk about God, to encourage people to develop love of God, to encourage people to get into certain spiritual practice that will help them to become strong in body, mind, and soul. All that is aroma arising out of devotion that blossoms in your heart. The spiritual worship is not confined just to a temple or a church. The whole world before you is offering opportunity of worshiping God, serving God. And instead of complaining, the world doesn't give me opportunity. What opportunity are you generating? Even with children. How to change the conversation to something that is positive. Instead of competing with bringing more and more negative. Someone brings a negative news. So, didn't you know? 100 times that happened in another area. That's mind eager to go into a negative process of associate, negative associate. Allow your mind to move to positive and urge others to do so. All in a nice way. In fact, if you do that, you become more likable, you become a magnet. Maintaining life for the sake of God. The state of surrender. The scriptural illustration is Lord Hanuman. The feeling that everything belongs to God. It is the reality, but the feeling remains backward. It's easy if you allow your intellect to pursue of scriptures. Intellectual understanding is easy. All this is nothing but God's presence. But intellectual understanding is very limited. It is dry. It should be associated with emergence of blossoming feeling. In other words, deep down you must develop a profound feeling that your body, your circumstances, your relatives, all belong to God. When you sleep, you are not worried about your children, your brothers, your sisters, your relatives. You leave them off. Thanks to ignorance. Now, during that time, who took care of all your burden? Try to handle that at all times. There's a practical level of reality where you do feel the burden, where you do become involved and allow all your nervous system to have under strain and all that. The normal reality is not affected. But along with it, internally, you must go on developing that all this is not being handled by me. God handles it. Fortunately, He is omniscient. It goes. Another, fortunately, He is omnipotent. Nothing is impossible for Him. And you go on whispering into your heart and allow your faith to develop. Otherwise, faith remains immature. There is always a sense that this is something very big I'm asking of God. Will He do it? But if you really have that understanding and that little glimpse of God's infinite power, infinite compassion, your mind will be simply calm, relaxed. That again, when I'm saying that, you must realize something progressive. The more you understand, you start promoting that by japa, surrendering to God, doing puja, various types of worship according to your religious upbringing, and allow this sweetness of God's presence to come into your heart. So much so that will not go away from you. And if that happens, you have attained something so great you cannot imagine. Beholding God in everyone. Beholding is again a figurative term. You have an subtle insight that all people, all things around you are moved by God. And God is the reality behind all names and forms. That again is a progressive movement. You go on discovering it, promoting in your heart. Seeing God in positive people is easy. But even in negative situations, to understand that someone presented a challenge, some situation became negative, bitter, but there was a divine hand behind. It was for a purpose. The message of this is not to create negative situations intentionally, neither for yourself nor for others. But when a situation has come and you can't do anything about it, can develop a sense of austerity. You are practicing austerity to please God. And a spirit of surrender. As the moon emerges out of a dark cloud, it shines bright and says to the dark clouds, adios. Similarly, each adversity enriches you if you are on the spiritual path. Sometimes it enriches you more than prosperity. So much so you develop a deep insight. The source of all happenings is in divine hands. It is His will. It is dramatized by Him. A patient comes in a hospital, just he has received certain type of injury, some car accident, and that patient is a great devotee of God. And the doctor comes and asks the patient, What happened? Who caused this problem for him? In fact, he was injured by some inimical person. And while doctor was asking, the doctor was treating him tenderly. And the patient opens his mouth with his eyes and says, the same one who injured me is now attacked with great care. Whether the doctor understood it or not, doesn't matter. The deeper level of your heart should always know that nothing happens unless God has permitted it for a purpose. So don't hold on to grudge and go after people. And live your life led by His will. These are the highlights of devotional book. Now we come to more details. 45th Sutra. Dveshadayastu naivam. But hatred, etc. are not the signs of devotion, because there are some statements in the scriptures that there were demons who could not love Krishna. The love is not easy for demons. Therefore, they developed intense hatred. And led by intense hatred, their mind was constantly thinking of Krishna, thinking of Rama. And the result, they attained liberation. Called Vari Bhakti. Devotion backed up by intense hatred. What the sutra says, don't fall for it. This is a figurative way to tell you that if a hatred that is unnatural to the mind can lead one to liberation, in the case of demons, how much easier for you to turn your mind with love. Why should you give up love and develop hatred? What are the demons? And in the case of demons, again, the mystical meaning is demons are divine energy that has become short-circuited. Love in you is divine. Anger, demonic. The same energy has become a little twisted, like short-circuited electricity. Once short-circuited, it is hurtful, damaging. Devotion will destroy anger. So it is dramatized. Anger comes with it like a big demon with so many fangs and bulging eyes and red blood dripping from his eyes and teeth. The children become involved with that. Very childhood. Look at that. He's Hanuman. He's dealing with a demon. A ferocious demon. And ultimately he kills. At the last moment, the demon says, Ram. Hanuman said, what a wonderful. So, the idea is that dramatization of how a negative energy, demoniac energy in you, has its root in the positive. The positive that has become twisted. With the help of devotion, you allow divine presence in you to destroy the demon. In other words, correct that short-circuited state. Once that anger aspect has become sublimated, there is nothing but the divine love. Same applies to all the different types of qualities that you want to develop. All positive qualities are divine. Negative qualities are twisted energy. The negative ones are described as demons. Positive ones are gods. In brief, hatred has no place. If you are turning your mind to God, hatred cannot enter your mind. And that implies, basically, you will not develop a hateful relation with God. Another, you will not allow hatred to develop in your dealings with. Darkness cannot exist in the sun, but the same sun is the source of days and nights on the earth planet. You experience days and you experience nights. What's the cause? The sun. But if you are moving towards the sun, you will find the sun is partial to day, impartial to night. Night begins to fade away. There is nothing, no dark. The sun is nothing but light. In the same way, as you move towards God, your mind is facing the practical reality of love and hate. But as your mind moves towards God, hatred diminishes. There's nothing to hate. And mind becomes filled with divine love, absolute. Sage Vyasa says in the Mahabharata, Na krodho na cha matsaryam, na lobho na shubhamati, bhavati kritakrityanam, bhaktanam purushottame. Those who have attained true fulfillment in their life, the devotees, they have absolutely no anger, no jealousy, no greed. Their intellect does not harbor anything that is negative. Just lead you further in that line. Mind that has not developed that high level of devotion is constantly under the influence of forces of darkness. An interesting term used in Indian literature, Sanskrit literature, also is used in Hindi. When you see people gossiping against you, or especially in the realm of politics, the term is used shadayantra. Someone is doing shadayantra against, is conspiring against. Shadayantra means there are 6 points. Shad is 6. Yantra is 6 manipulations. When you handle something negative in the world, there are 6 manipulations. In fact, this whole world experience is a Shadayantra. First of the 6 is Prapancha. You are facing a world that is veiled by names and forms. The reality is threefold: existence, knowledge, bliss. Add name and form, called prapanch. In normal dealing with each other, prapanch means something like we're throwing someone in a marshy land, in mud. Getting out of mud, you are enlightened. First point, prapanch. Second point, maya. Maya means like magical. Things you experience have kind of a magical effect. You develop certain type of desire in your mind, and then anything corresponds to the desire makes you feel so happy. The happiness is not in the object. And many other values develop out of just maya. In your dream, a whole world comes to exist by magic. Third of those 6 is bhaya, fear. Sometimes fear has many levels. This subtle feeling of insecurity. comprehending something negative is going to happen. That haunts people day and night. There's always fear of losing life. It's instinctive fear. Next is Brahman. Brahman is delusion. In a twilight, as you Brahm, Bhram, Brahm. You are coming in the misty veil. You see something coming towards you. That something seems enormous. Maybe a big giant is coming. You are afraid. But as you open your eyes and get a clearer look, then you begin to recognize that something is a friend coming towards you. Before that, it was delusion. Next, arati, distaste. Distaste for things that are good for you. You live by the holy place, live by the Ganges River. People come from millions, around thousands of miles to get to see the Ganges. But what you do, you don't like it. You close your window that faces the it's all that dramatized. Similarly, the Ganges of Ganges flows in your heart. God is within you. All that is required, to relax your mind, develop the spirit of surrender, get involved with more satsanga, live your daily life with a rhythmic pattern to make your life better, more enriched, more integrated. And great revelation dawns upon you. All the positive begins to manifest. But that is not liked by the mind. Arati, mind likes fun. You are led by the masses. You ask them, where can I find a lot of happiness? And they give you a lot of ideas. It is led by great good karmas from ancient times, from past times, that your mind becomes fascinated with the idea that there is possibility of attaining the goal of life, called God realization, liberation. There's possibility, that's your potentiality to become free of the disease of the world process. This disease is a big tumor, ego. Illusion that I am, ego personality. And the disease in the form of coming back again and again, birth and death. That's a terrible disease. Once that idea has entered your mind in a very mature way, then there is a constant sense of longing to be with God, longing to have more enjoyment of meditation, of japa, of satsanga, of spreading good things emanating from your heart and becoming a tool in the hands of God. Next, last one is uchchatan. Uchchatan, somehow taste doesn't develop. The best of situations presented by God, and you don't utilize it by developing devotion, etc. The same way as you put a camel in the field of good things, carrot, bananas, etc. The camel chooses thorny bushes, picks up thorns and very delightfully eats them. These are the factors that go to create conspiration They conspire against the soul. If you look around, these six are always there. Plotting against you, talking, creating projects. This is reflected in the normal, ordinary course of life. People use the term. Some enemies were doing Shadayantra. Conspiring to create some trouble. And with this conclusion,
Thank you for joining us on this journey of spiritual growth. It's an honor to learn from the wisdom of Swami Jyotirmayananda. As we part for now, remember, the quest does not end. Take time to reflect on today's insights and integrate them into your life. Until next time, stay open, stay curious, stay present. The light within you is always shining.